and let us all do we can to build a better future. So, third parties are being vilified by corporate media. Third parties are being called spoilers. Third parties are being blamed as responsible for a potential Biden loss. So, first, I want to bring this up here. Shout out again to Case Study QB, who's wrongly being censored. Because apparently, there's talk about no labels. Now, I want to make one thing very clear about no labels. It is a combination of Democratic and Republican individuals. It's not this maverick group. They're centrists. So I'm all for third parties like the Greens, Libertarians. Hell, I'll even go further with the Forward Party, People's Party, Socialist Alternative, which is a political organization, by the way, not a political party. I'm all for that. No labels. No labels. That's not a real third party. So let's hear from BSDNC about, oh no, heaven forbid, third parties.
About third-party candidates. Do you think that's an off-ramp for somebody like RFK Jr. if he knows that there's a strong, successful Biden first-term administration that he's had? He's got a good record to run on of wins, he being Joe Biden. Is that maybe where somebody like RFK Jr. goes?
I think that's the plan. And I mean, you're seeing through, and No Label still is trying to, is making noise that they are trying to get a candidate too. So I do think there are a lot of people who just want Biden not to get reelected because I think they know that Biden will have to address this Supreme Court problem and that maybe Biden will support the IRS and raise taxes. And I think a lot of these wealthy conservatives, taxes are their number one issue, and they don't really care about the collateral damage when it comes to rights and what happens to LGBTQ people and what happens to women and what happens. So I do think ultimately this is just a very craven ploy.
But we saw.
Okay, so again, no labels. It's probably going to label itself as an outside party and really make third parties look bad. That's the overall plan, to make Greens and Libertarians look bad.
A lot of that happened, though, because in 2016, there were a lot of people that justified their vote for Trump by saying, but look at my 401k. Right. It was my 401k argument that a lot of people that otherwise would have voted for Trump were saying, I'll support him. But now there are the infringement of individual rights that are held by not only Democrats, but by Republicans and independents as well. Is there an independent lane that Biden can pick up with a message that you think is strong enough to be able to deliver?
I mean, it's his for the taking, right? I mean, think about like all of these Supreme Court decisions, all of these ways in which people were infringed. I mean, Supreme Court is making federal policy, right? I mean, that's not how it's supposed to go.
Outside of their lane, frankly.
Right, way outside of their lane. And so I do think there's a real opportunity here for the Biden administration. Look, Biden has been underestimated at every point, right? At every point, from the Democratic primary in 2020 to now, he has been underestimated. So I wouldn't count him out. He's got smart people around him helping.
Of course, I'm going to count out Biden. He doesn't have smart people around him. He has opportunists.
Him.
And notice she's looking at the camera too, knowing that she's lying. Look, see a face. That's the face of a liar.
Sort of make the right choices.
I'm definitely not counting him out. In the latest NBC News national poll, Biden was ahead by Donald Trump by at least 4 points, which
there's also a poll that's showing them being tied, lady. By the way, in case you might remember her, this era, she's the one who brought up RFK Jr. being shirtless. She was being very thirsty. We talked about that on yesterday's show. I'll pull up this other video here. It's from our friends at Fox News, of all places, discussing how third party could and would affect the general election. So let's pull up this video. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. Please be sure to follow him on Twitter.
The centrist group No Labels says that voters increasingly want an alternative option if the 2024 race comes down to Trump and Biden, but some say that could be a benefit to President Trump. Mark, how do you respond to that? Because there has been questions about President Biden's health and his wellness in particular over the last few months.
Well, it doesn't really matter who the main party nominees are going to be. I mean, there's two factors here when it comes to third parties. Number one, will they siphon away votes in a general election, and who are they taking those votes from? Are they taking it from the Republican or the Democrat? Generally speaking, if you're going to take them from both sides, it's going to leave us right where we are.
Now, here's the thing. Again, It's not going to siphon votes. 50% of the U.S. population identifies itself as independent. We're not being representative, and yet there are jag-off laws at the state and federal level that prevent third parties from being on the ballot, from being on the debate stage. I've interviewed the Illinois Green Party and Illinois Libertarian Party numerous times. And in my state, again, I personally feel my state is pretty draconian. I'm pretty sure there are states that are far, far worse, maybe, potentially, or maybe on par. But if you're a Libertarian or a Green Party candidate in the great state of Illinois or independent in general, you have to get, at the bare minimum, 20,000 to 50,000 signatures just to make sure you have a fair shot at getting on the ballot. Just go ahead and ask what the Democrats or Republicans in Illinois have to do. Far less than that. And there was one point where the Illinois Green Party was recognized as a legitimate party until they lost it.
The bigger question is could an actual third-party candidate get to winning a state or two and keeping either party from getting to the 270 it takes to win? If that's the case, then the Republican will become the president because of the way the Electoral College breaks down.
By the way, again, liberals, popular vote don't mean crap in this country. You can have all the votes you want. Hell, you could be in the lead. Electoral College supersedes that. Now, in other democracies, other republics, they don't have our antiquated Electoral College. You know, by the way, you Democrats could have had numerous opportunities to get rid of the Electoral College, but you didn't.
If neither candidate gets that magic 270 to win. So I think right now, if there's a third party, it benefits President Trump, both in terms of who they would take it away from, the votes from in a general election, or if they were to actually pull off the unlikely and win a state, that just helps the president as well, too.
Well, you know, David, let's go back. I mean, you can look to the Ross Perot time in the nation's history. And here are all of the candidates. And again.
Now, look, again, I'm glad that Ross Perot was on the debate stage. Hell, I'm glad that Ralph Nader was on the debate stage. It was one of the few rare moments in our history where we had another choice, another candidate. And unfortunately, elections are controlled by the two-party system because people are so paranoid by giving the American people a choice. If you're not angry, I don't know what else to tell you. I will not participate voting Democrat or Republican. I will vote independent. Number one, because it's what I believe in. Number two, the DNC and RNC will never earn my vote. And number three, just a personal note, just to tick off the establishment voters, okay? It's time for all of us to start thinking for ourselves. Break away from the two-party system.
And, you know, I think the question mark here in particular on the GOP side, I realize you're a Democrat, but on the GOP side that, you know, a lot of this can split, you know, the vote between those that don't support President Trump ends up gaining in the primary. But David, you know, on the other side of this, you do have challenges to President Biden. And I think that the polling has been very surprising, in particular when it comes to Robert Kennedy Jr., who is gained ground. And remember, President Biden, his name is not going to be on a couple of states, which caused a lot of controversy. Why would you?
Now, again, Iowa and New Hampshire voters. The Democratic Party could, in its influence and power, and again, this is meaning no disrespect to people voting in a Democratic primary, the DNC could very well dismiss both your delegations. I would be raising up a hellstorm with the Democratic establishment, because if they're going to be doing that, they are legitimately telling you, Iowa and New Hampshire voters, that you better support the Democratic Party's pick. They're telling you not to think for yourselves. So I wish all the best. Do yourselves a favor. If you're RFK Jr. and if Marianne Williamson's still around, which I'll be surprised by that, what you'll have to do is document everything. Remember what happened during the 2016 and 2020 Democratic primaries. Document everything. Follow through. Because it's going to be a fight.
Do you not want your main candidate's name on a state? Why have that box unchecked for President Biden? But I guess that's their strategy.
Now, again, there's a second video to this follow-up, and I want to pull that up for all of you lovely people. Because, again, third-party candidates are wrongly being vilified. And I think we have to remember that the whole job of the establishment is to maintain the illusion of choice of Democrat or Republican. And that's a terrible choice to be imposed upon the American people.
Well, if we look back at the poll we talked about earlier, it shows that Donald Trump is doing well with his party, but who's doing even better with their party is President Biden. Even with RFK and some other candidates popping their head up, Biden is in really good shape. And if we talk about the No Labels organization, to me, it looks like a real fallacy that it's built on this premise, like Mark said, that has so many things that have to be lined up. They have to increase voter turnout. They have to win over partisan votes. They have to get on the ballots. They have to get 37% nationwide if they're going to move forward with their plan. Allegedly, that's what they're saying. So I think at the end of the day, the no limits thing is just off the table. It's not going to happen. They're probably planning for a future election down the road. And this all bodes well for President Biden. Of course, there's a lot of talk about who this potential candidate could be if it's a third party, but that's a big mystery.
Now, look, when you add in a third party candidate, voters are falling for that one, and Biden can very well lose. Look, Joe Biden has lost the progressive movement, okay? And seriously, diehard vote blue no matter who people. I remember all of you in 2020 saying that Biden's going to protect affirmative action. He's going to do something about Medicare for all, student debt forgiveness, protect Roe v. Wade, and all these other wonderful things, and that never happened. So if you are a progressive voter and you felt guilty maybe of how you voted in 2016, and maybe you felt ashamed and you had people yell at you and talk down to you that we got to support Biden because Trump, don't fall for that propaganda again. I know what to expect from a Trump presidency. Okay? Now, nothing fundamentally changed under Joe Biden. It just got worse. That's right. It did. Vote blue no matter who. Really, what kind of smear tactic are you going to use? You're just going to say, what? I'm a right winger? Right here. I mean, that's not going to make me vote for you. And I encourage my entire audience, all of you lovelies watching, to think for yourselves. And if none of you want to vote, fine. But vote how you feel like it, because you don't owe anyone your vote. They have to earn your vote. And I know my audience are a bunch of free thinkers, so think for yourselves, my lovelies. You don't owe the two-party system a goddamn thing. Continuing on.
And once you put someone on the ballot, it's not just an idea, it's a person with all those pros and cons. And in this political climate, it's mostly cons. They've been talking about maybe Manchin or Hogan. These are people that aren't polling well with attracting new voters that haven't voted before to come out and vote. So I think that whole premise is really just an idea, a philosophical debate, one to raise money. But I think they're going to keep their powder dry when push comes to shove, when they're talking about early next season.
Well, we've got a GOP debate coming up next month, and that's going to be on Fox. So, of course, there's going to be a lot to watch, and that's happening very soon. Mark Lauder, David Carlucci, thanks to both of you.
And Harlan's Media will be covering that wonderful debate. Tune in, because it's going to be a hell of a show. It'll be great. It'll be fun to watch. Tune in. Check it out. But there's one more video I want to pull up here. Because now, again, our friends from BSDNC are going to give their analysis. Third-party candidates versus a pro-vote blue no matter who. They're going to be saying that Trump needs to be defeated. Shout out to Case Study QB. I don't know how he sits through this, but he has more courage than I do.
Well, I think an independent movement or an independent candidate would have real challenges. That said, I think No Labels is doing the country a service by keeping this option open in the event we have another Trump-Biden race. And I believe that because most voters on the Democratic side would prefer someone other than Joe Biden, and a hell of a lot of Republicans like myself and Joe, and I think you, Michael, would prefer someone other than Donald Trump. And I think the marketplace of ideas demands that there be an alternative. Now, if the Republicans nominate someone other than Donald Trump, say like Tim Scott, then this whole No Labels movement goes away. But independents, you're right, don't have a great track record. But so many people are disaffiliating from the major political parties that there may be an opportunity for an independent to actually make a difference in this race. I'm not saying they can win, but I think we're in a different time right now. We saw what happened in France with Macron. He came up the middle and defied the conventional wisdom. It worked there. I'm not saying it'll work here. Let's at least have that option on the table.
Joe, what do you make of Charlie's argument and the case?
Hey, I remember you. It's that guy who used to be a pro-Trumper who's now a Democrat. By the way, just so you know, when he was a pro-Trumper, Trump blocked him on Twitter. So just a little side note, just throwing it out there.
For no labels. There's been a lot of suspicion about money and sort of the politics, and that's kind of inside Washington stuff. But you're a guy with your finger on the pulse across the country. How does this set up, do you think, in light of what you see out there?
Donald Trump and Trumpism right now is the greatest single threat to our democracy.
That's not what he was saying in 2016. He was all for Trump. All for Trump.
They must be defeated. Anything,
this is former Representative Joe Walsh, by the way.
Michael, that takes away from defeating Trump and Trumpism in 2024 is wrong. No labels is wrong. A third party is wrong. A fourth party is wrong. Anybody else running.
Oh, it's so terrible. Oh, God forbid. Here's the real truth. Now, no labels is a centrist plan by Democratic and Republican lawmakers. It's not going to work. But you know what? I'm all for the Greens getting on the debate stage. I'm all for social alternative putting somebody on a debate stage. I'm all for libertarians putting someone on the debate stage. Hell, Forward Party. You could do that too if you want. All political parties. I'm all for it. Third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8, 9, 10, going on. Because it's not wrong. It's the right thing to do. Because other democracies have it, yet we don't. Trump's the overall end-all, be-all threat? Under which administration did Roe v. Wade die under? Oh, yeah, that's right. A Democratic administration. Affirmative action? Under a Democratic administration. Anything to help out student debt forgiveness? Under a Democratic administration. The kids are still in cages? Yeah, under a Democratic administration. Hey, Rob Reiner, remember that tweet? Hang on, kids, we're going to come and get you out of those cages.
Trump needs to be defeated. The only way that gets done in 2024 is if all of us, again, line up behind Joe Biden or whoever the Democratic nominee is.
Line up and follow orders. Don't think for yourself. Follow orders.
I have zero patience, Michael, for all of these ego-driven, money-driven people like No Labels who want to put their faces in their candidates out here. They do not understand the unique threat our democracy is under right now.
So let's have democracy in the chat. Do you think our country is under a unique threat by Trump? Type 1, be like, yeah, Kit, we got to stop Trump. You don't understand, buddy. We got to stop Trump. He's the bad guy of our time. He'll ruin everything. I type 2, like, no, he ain't a unique threat. He's just a rash indicating something wrong with the American political system. We got a YouTube super chat from Janice Anderson wrote, if neither party get the required electoral votes, Congress appoints the president. Electoral college has nothing to do with it at that point. That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that YouTube super chat. So I want to pull up one last article here. And again, it's from Slate. And it's nothing but a hit piece on Dr. Cornel West and third parties. Why is America's Green Party like this? Jill Stein is running Cornel West's campaign. Didn't they learn anything in 2016? Well, In a recent Economist YouGov poll, found that 44% of American adults would vote for a third party or an independent candidate. Separate at BSDNC news poll showed that more Democrats and Republicans are open to third party voting in 2024. It's not outlandish then to think some of them will peel off to support famed intellectual Dr. Cornel West, who is seeking the Green Party's nomination. The longtime professor continues to hold plenty of respect in progressive circles as a bombastic, righteous public scholar, as a committed socialist, as a former Bernie Sanders campaign surrogate. Sanders has already endorsed President Joe Biden. Hey, Joe. Hey, Bernie, you're nothing but a cuck. You know, people could stick their necks out for you, but you don't stick their necks out for them. Dr. Cornel West did that for you. Chris Hedges. Hell, I remember when Tulsi Gabbard stepped down from the DNC, DCCC to be more precise, because she acknowledged what was happening during the 2016 primary. And what'd you do? You dismissed Tulsi Gabbard. You spineless coward, Bernie. The worry from mainstream Democrats, of course, is that his celebrity will be enough to eat into the left liberal voting share and resulting sweep Republicans back into power. If Cornel West is aware of this concern, he's certainly unafraid of the optics. His 2024 campaign has already recruited Dr. Jill Stein, commonly blamed spoiler of the 2016 election, as its manager. She'll also be in charge of West's fundraising and communications for the time being, according to Bloomberg. Now, here's the thing about the Green Party, all right? In 2016, even if all the votes, even if all the Greens went to Hillary Clinton, all the Libertarians, let's say they went to Hillary Clinton too, it still wouldn't change anything because she lost the Electoral College slate. Oh, one other thing here too. Who is to say that the Greens and Libertarians would vote for Hill Dog? Let's say all of them stay home. Same problem. You don't owe these politicians these votes. And I encourage all of you who are watching to make your own choice as well. And this whole article is basically talking about how bad the Green Party is, brings up Ralph Nader. They really go after him, especially for his role running as a third-party candidate during the George Bush Jr. Al Gore presidency, or, as George Bush Jr. versus Al Gore, the 2000 election. They blame him as a villain, just like how Republicans blamed Ross Perot as a villain. Madness and insanity all around. That's a long, detailed article about third parties and the problem that they are. But I like this last paragraph right here. A lot of people would agree with that. Perhaps even those who committed for voting for either Biden or Trump. And there's room in the Democratic Party to adopt more of the Green Party's most virtuous policy planks as the planet and our democracy remain under threat. I agree with many of West's positions and do most of rank and file Democratic-based voters. I hope to see some of this proposed reforms incorporated into our platform. Leon County Democratic Party Chair Ryan Ray told the Florida Phoenix. But heading into election year, that will be just as important as 2000 and 2016. Ray also admitted that Ralph Nader still looms large in our public memory. At least Ralph Nader had courage, unlike the Democratic lawmakers. Because what, you think things are going to change under the Democratic Party? No, it won't. So I encourage people, make your own choice and stay tuned to Hard Lens Media.